Hey everybody, welcome to Speedway Motors. My name's Tim. I'm always glad when you can join me here at the shop, especially when we're talking about old hot rod parts. Today I brought some Vega boxes with me, and you're probably saying, Tim, hold up, man. We talked about Vega boxes last week. Yeah, that's true. We talked about the new power steering Vega box. We talked about some of the different variations of Vega boxes, companies that are producing them. It was a good time. Today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to dig into the Speedway Motors Vega box a little bit more, show you what's on the inside. If you're like me, since the age of 5, I've always had a curiosity of anything mechanical. It's like, what makes this thing tick? This is no different. I had to tear one of these apart for myself and see what was on the inside. The other thing I wanted to talk about is how to adjust one of these boxes, because it's pretty common when you get one of these things or you've driven it for a little while, you might need to do some adjustment on the box, and it's very straightforward, very easy to do. But if you've never done it before, it can be kind of complicated, and you might take the wrong angle on it and start messing with things that don't really need to be touched. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. When guys call me typically and they say, gosh, you know, Tim, I've got my hot rod going, I've got a little play in the steering wheel, first thing I'll tell them to do is check everything on the car first. You know, make sure your tie rod ends are all good and tight, make sure your steering arms are safe and everything's put together the right way. Once you've figured out that that's all good, then you can turn your attention to the steering box itself. And you know, some of these come right out of the box, they're good to go, you don't need to mess with them. Other times you'll get them in the car, you'll notice that play, and you'll say, yeah, I do need to tighten it down a little bit. And they're designed for that kind of an adjustment, so no worries there. I brought a box with me, and I put a pitman arm and a steering U-joint on it to kind of show you, what a box that's out of adjustment might look like. If you're adjusting a box, what I always tell guys to do is do it with the box in the car. You can do it on a bench like this, and that's okay, but you really get the best feel for it when it's in the car holding the steering wheel. Make sure when you do the adjustment on your adjustment screw that you have the steering box right in the center of its sector. So you've got the wheels pointed straight and it's right in the middle. Otherwise what happens is you'll tighten it down so it's nice and feels good in the middle, but then as you turn it one way or the other, it'll start to tighten up and bind. You don't want to deal with that. These are actually designed to kind of loosen as you go into a turn and feel tightest when you're going straight down the road. So it's pretty straightforward. I'll kind of show you this box a little bit and how it's out of adjustment. I put a U-joint on it and one of our stainless steel pitman arms, and as I turn this thing, yeah, you'll see I'm moving this thing. It's all tightened down, but as I move it, that pitman arm isn't moving, and I've got a lot of movement there. Of course, once it starts going, it's fine, but it really needs some adjustment. If you decide you need to adjust it, it's no problem. You've got a 3/4 wrench. You can loosen the jam nut up, and that allows you to get at this adjustment screw, and basically as you adjust it in, it should tighten up. So I'm going to tighten this one up a little bit, get it to where it's feeling better, and you don't have to go too far. Again, this one was adjusted out as far as it would go, but once you get that dialed in, oh yeah, now you can see just the slightest movement on that is actually moving the pitman arm. I can do a very drastic movement, but it's pretty hard to see in the video just how little I'm moving that thing, and sure enough, as soon as I start turning it at all, it's moving that pitman arm, no problem. So, a lot of guys will want to monkey with this. Leave that alone. I've never run into a case where you've ever had to adjust that. Just that sets the preload on the input, and you don't have to monkey with it. Everything happens on this top cap with this adjustment screw. I'm going to take this thing apart and we can kind of look at it. On the inside, I take my U-joint off. Of course, we have a bunch of U-joints if you ever need them for different applications to get your Vega box all hooked up, but I'll pull the pitman arm off here. Pretty straightforward. Just incidentally, I brought one of my other types of pitman arms. Both of these are stainless steel, but this one has a little bit of a drop to it, which can come in handy if you're putting this on a gasser or something along those lines. Kind of scooch some of these things out of the way, and we'll start taking this thing apart. And I'll do it quickly here, and it doesn't take long to really get at the internals of this thing. And again, I had a lot of fun with this box. I put it in the old solvent tank, and we cleaned it up. So typically these things are packed full of grease. So, and of course, whenever you buy a brand new box, you don't want to pull it apart. You just want to install it in your hot rod and go. So I wouldn't expect any of you to be doing that. So that kind of gets us started there. I'm going to kind of pull this apart, and we'll get at the gears on the inside of this thing. I'm going to run this adjustment screw all the way in so I can even take this top plate off. This is kind of a mule. It's been pulled apart a few times, so you can kind of see the top plate comes right off. Get this thing so we can slide the gear out. There we go. There's that guy. Of course, there's your adjustment screw, how it kind of engages that shaft. Very straightforward, very similar to like an old F1 or a Ford box, you know, how that adjustment's made. But where the technology and the engineering really comes in is in these teeth. And if you could see it from my perspective, these teeth are not just straight cut. They're kind of angled and bowed, and there's a lot of engineering in here that a simple guy like me can't understand, but it's for a specific purpose. And what I'll tell guys to do typically is after you've driven the car again for about 500 miles, you know, maybe look at the box adjustment one more time. Make sure it's really dialed in, because after you drive it, these gears do tend to seat a little bit. I'll pull this side off, kind of see what's under here. These are all, you know, it's a needle bearing setup, you know, for this shaft, so, you know, you don't have to worry about bronze bushings or anything like that. Kind of get this torn apart so we can kind of get at what's going on. Of course, there's your end cap with your bearing race and your bearing. Clean, really nice components. And then that allows you to slide this guy out. Of course, there's another little bearing in here, but this gets at the real technology of this thing, which is the reciprocating ball and the worm gear, you know, which moves this gear in and out, which is really slick, pretty neat setup. And you can kind of see how these gears mesh with each other and make the whole thing work. Now, that's why these gears are shaped the way they are, because as you move that adjustment screw, obviously what you're doing is you're moving this laterally and you're causing those teeth to engage each other just in a little bit different way to take up the slack. So pretty simple design, pretty slick, but you know, if you look at this and you look at the pieces, you see just how well they're machined. It's really nice setup. Everything's done with a lot of attention to detail. So there's nothing to complain about here. Really good internals. And again, I thought it'd be interesting for you to see this. Of course, you have your needle bearings in here, which are all flopping around because I don't have them greased up, so they don't really stay in place. If you ever have to take one of these apart, watch out for that. But of course, this thing, it's kind of packed with a type of grease that's like a really good, like a bearing type grease. And again, it's just full of that stuff. So, you know, it keeps everything really well lubricated. So. Again, it'll give you years of service, neat piece. If you have any other questions, you know, give us a call. If you ever have any questions about installation or adjusting, you know, that's what we're here for. So give us a holler anytime. Again, my name's Tim. I'm one of the techs. Visit our website too, speedwaymotors.com. If you have questions, you can even type your questions in. Somebody will get right back to you. So that's our forte. We love talking to you folks out there. So thanks again for stopping by the shop here at Speedway. Have a great rest of your day and hope to see you again next time.